Good day again. We're going to continue with the reading of the books that we have spoken about in the last video. We have read The White Home Decorating Guide, Thief, and The Talos Mistake. Now we're going to read The Song of Belinal, The Gold Ribbon of Merit, and the Book of Dragonborn. The Song of Belinal, Volume 4, on his deeds. Editor's note: Volume 1 to 6 are taken from the so-called Riemann manuscript located in the Imperial Library. It is a transcript of older fragments collected by an unknown scholar of the early Second Era. Beyond this, little is known of the original source of these fragments, some of which appear to be from the same period, perhaps even from the same manuscript. But as no scholarly consensus yet exists on dating these 6 fragments, no opinions will be offered here. Elinal drove the sorcerer armies past the Nippon, claiming all the eastern lands for the rebellion of the Paravania, and Cain had to send her rain to wash the blood from the villages, and forts that no longer flew eyelid banners, for the armies of men needed to make camps of them as they went forward, and he broke the doors open for the prisoners of the Vihtashe, with the slave queen flying and on moribus above them, and men called her Al-Ish for the first time. He entered the gate to win back the hands of the thousands strong of Sidar, a tribe now known but famous in those days, which the eyelids had stolen in the night. 2,000 hands that he brought back in a wagon made of demon bone, whose wheels trailed the sound of women while ill at heart. Text lost. And after the first pogrom, which consolidated the northern holdings for the men of Greth, he stood with white hair, gun-brown with elf blood, at the bridge of Hildon, where perhaps falconers had sent for the Nords, and they looking at him said that Shor had returned. But he spat at their feet for profaning that name. He led them anyway into the heart of the Winterland West, to drive the eyelids inward towards the Tower of White Gold, a slow, retreating circle that could not understand the power of man's sudden liberty and what faulty idea that brought. His mace crushed the thunder nuts that a merle sent as harriers or barriers on the rebellion's long march back south and east, and carried Morihouse's breath of rain or cane to Zethus, the clever cutting man, and Ned with the Kipto name for healing or for healing, when the ball had fallen to a volley of bird beaks, and of course, and the council of skiffs were all of the Paravania's armies, and all of the Nords shook with fear at the storming of white gold, so much so that the Al-Esh herself counselled delay. Pelinal grew furious and made name of Omarel and made names of what cowards he thought he saw around him, and when made for the tower by himself, for Pelinal often acted without thought. The Gold Ribbon of Merit by Amberian Brom. In that early springtime morning, pale sunlight flickered behind the morning mist, floating through the trees as Temper and Stringbow made their way to the clearing. Neither had been back in High Rock, let alone in their favourite woods, for 4 years. The trees had changed little, even if they had. Stringbow had a handsome blonde moustache, now stiffened and speckled with wax, and Tembla seemed to be completely alien creature to the young lad who searched for adventure in the ancient grove. He was much quieter, as if scarred within as well as without. They each carried their bows and quivers with extra care as they maneuvered their way throughout the clusters of vine and branch. "This is the path that uses lead to your house, isn't it, old boy?" asked Stringbow. Tembla glanced at the overgrowth and indeed before continuing on. "I thought so," said Stringbow, and laughed. "I remember it because you used to run down it every time you got a bloody nose. I know. I can't offend you, but I have to say it's hard to believe that you ended up a soldier." "How's your family?" asked Nibla. "The same. A bit more pompous, if that's possible. It's obvious that they wished I'd come back from the academy, but there's nothing much for me there. At least not until I collect my inheritance. Did I say you I got a gold ribbon of merit in archery?" "How could I miss it?" said Tembla. "Oh yes, I nearly forgot that the families put it in the great hall, very ostentatiously. I suppose you can actually see it through the picture window, silly. But I hope the peasants are impressed." The clearing opened up before them where the mist settled on the grass, enveloping it in an opaque, chilly vapor. Pearl targets were arranged around in a semicircle several meters apart, like sentinels. "You've been practicing," observed Templar. "Well, I bet." "I've only been back in town for a few days," said Strongbow with a smile. "My parents said you got here a week ago." "That's right. My unit's camped a few miles east, and I thought I'd visit the old hounds. A lot changed. I could hardly recognize anything at all." Templar looked down at the valley below, to the vast, empty, tilled ground stretching out for miles around. "It looks like a good planting. My family's rather spread out since yours left. There was some discussions, I think, about keeping your old house up, but it seemed a little sentimental, especially as there was fertile ground beneath." Stringbow strung his bow carefully. It was a beautiful piece of art, darkest ebony, and spun silver filigrees, hand-crafted for him in Wayrests. He looked over at Templar stringing his bow, and lifted a twinge of pity. It was a sad, withered utensil bound together with strips of fabric. "If that's how they taught you to string your bow, you need some advisors from the academy in that army of yours," said Stringbow as gently as he could. The untied loop is supposed to look like an X, not an O. Yours looks like a 3 or a Z, not a Y." "It works for me," said Templar. "I should tell you I won't be able to make an afternoon of this. I'm supposed to join my unit this evening." Stringbow began to feel annoyed by his old friend. If he was angry about his family losing their land, why couldn't he just say it? Why did he come back to the valley at all? He watched Templar nock his first arrow, taking him as a target, and laughed. "I'm sorry, but I can't, in good faith, send you back to the army without a little new wisdom. There are 3 types of draw, 3 fingers, thumbs and index. A thumb and 2 fingers. Then there's the thumb draw, which I like. But you see." Stringbow showed Templar the small leather loop fastened in the cord of his bow. "You need to have one of these thingies or you'll tear your thumb right off. I think I like my stupid method best." "Don't be big-headed, Templar. They didn't give me the gold ribbon of merit for nothing. I had demonstrated shooting from under a shield, standing, sitting, squatting, kneeling, and sitting on horseback. This is practical information I'm imparting for the sake of your friendship, of our friendship, which I, at least, haven't completely forgotten. Sweet Rainwrath, I remember when you were just an oily little squirt, begging for this kind of honest guidance." Templar looked at Stringbow for a moment and lowered his bow. "Show me." Stringbow relaxed, shook away the tensions that had been building. He did this exercise, drawing the bow back to his eyebrow, his mustache, and his earlobe. "There are 3 ways of shooting, snatching and releasing in one continuous motion, like the Basma do, holding with a short draw and a pause before releasing, like the Khajiti. and partial draw, pause, final draw. Sringbolt fired the arrow into the center of the target with cool precision and release, which I prefer. Very nice, said Templar. Now you, said Sringbolt. He helped Templar select a grip, nock his arrow correctly, and take him. A smile grew on Templar's face. The first time Sringbolt had seen such a childlike expression on the war-etched visage or afternoon, when Templar released the arrow. It rocketed high over the top of the target and into the valley below, where it disappeared from sight. Not bad, said Templar. No, not bad, said Sringbolt, feeling friendly. Once again, if you practice, you should be able to focus your aim a little bit. The two shot a few more practice bolts before parting ways. Templar began the long trek easy to his unit's camp, and Sringbolt wound his way down through the woods to the valley and his family's mansion. He hammered the little tune he learned at the academy as he passed the great lawn and walked up to the front door, pleased with himself for helping his old friend. It entirely escaped his attention that the large picture window was broken. But he noticed right away when he came into the great hall and saw Templar's wild short bolt sticking on in his gold ribbon of merit. The third one and the last of the day will be the Book of Dragonborn by Prior Emilian Madrian, Order of Talus, Wenon Priori, year 360 of the third era, 21st of the reign of the Majesty Pelagius IV. Many people have heard the term Dragonborn. We are, of course, ruled by the Dragonborn emperors. But the true meaning of the term is not commonly understood. For those of us in the Order of Talus, this is a subject near and dear to our hearts. And in this book, I will attempt to illuminate the history and significance of those known as Dragonborn. Down through the ages, most scholars agree that the term was first used in connection with the covenant of Akatosh, when the blessed Saint Alesia was giving the amulet of Ring of Kings and the dragon fires in the temple of the one where first lit Akatosh. Looking with pity upon the blighty of men, or the blood of men, drew precious blood from his own heart, and the blessed Saint Alicia with this blood of dragons, and made a covenant that so long as Alicia's generations were true to the dragon blood, Akatosh would endeavor to seal tight the gates of oblivion and to deny the armies of Deirdre and undead to the enemies. The Deirdre loving eyelids, those blessed by Akatosh with the dragon blood, became known more simply as Dragonborn. The connection with the rulers of the empire was thus there from the beginning. Only those of the dragon blood were able to wear the amulet of kings and light the dragon fires. All the legitimate rulers of the empire have been dragonborn. The emperors and empresses of the first Cyrodiilic empire founded by Alicia, Riemann, Cedrel and his heirs, and of course Tiber Septim and his heirs, down to our current emperor, His Majesty Pelagius Septim IV. Because of this connection with the emperor, however, the other significance of the dragon born has been absurd and largely forgotten by all but scholars and those of us dedicated to the service of the blessed Talos, who was Tiber Septim. Very few realize that being dragonborn is not a simple matter of heredity. Being the blessing of Akatosh himself, it is beyond our understanding exactly how and why it is bestowed. Those who become emperor and light the dragon fires are surely dragonborn. The proof is in the wearing of the amulet and the lighting of the fires. But were they dragonborn and thus able to do these things, or was the doing the sign of the blessing of Akatosh descending upon them? All that we can say is that it is both and neither a divine mystery. The line of Septim have all been dragonborn, of course, which is one reason the simplistic notion of it being hereditary has become so commonplace. But we know for certain that the early Cyrodiilic rulers were not all related. There is also no evidence that Riemann Cedrel was descended from Alicia, although there are many legends that would make it so, most of them dating from the time of Riemann and likely attempts to legitimize his rule. We know that the blades usually thought of as the emperor's bodyguards originated in Akaviri. Crusaders who invaded Tamiral for obscure reasons in the late First Era, they appear to have been searching for a dragonborn. The events of Pelipasse bear this out, and the Akaviri were the first to proclaim Riemann Cedrel as dragonborn. In fact, it was the Akaviri who did the most of promote his standing as emperor, although Riemann himself never took that title in his lifetime. And of course, there is also known hereditary connection between Tiber Septim and any of the previous dragonborn rulers of Temiral. Whether there can be more than one dragonborn of any time is another mystery. The emperors have done their best to dismiss this notion, but of course, the imperial succession itself means that at the very best, or the very least, there are two or more potentials dragonborn at any time, the current ruler and his or her heirs. The history of the blades also hints at this, although little is known as of the activities during the interregnum between Riemann's empire and the rise of Tiber Septim. Many believe that the blades continued to search out and guard those they believed were or might be dragonborn during this time. Lastly, we come to the question of the true meaning of being dragonborn. The connection with dragons is so obvious that it has almost been forgotten. In these days, when dragons are a distant memory, we forgot that in the early days, being dragonborn meant having the dragon blood. Some scholars believe that was meant quite literal, although the exact significance is not known. The Nords will tell of dragon-born heroes who were great dragon slayers, able to steal the power of the dragons they killed. Indeed, it is well known that the Akaviri sought out and killed many dragons during the invasions, and there is some evidence that this continued after they became Rayman Cerodale, dragon's god. Again, the connection to dragons, the direct predecessor to the blades of today. I'll leave you with that. Is known as the prophecy of the dragonborn. It often said that it originates in an elder scroll, sometimes also attributed to the ancient Akaviri. Many have attempted to decipher it, and many have also believed that its omen had been fulfilled and that the advent of the last Dragonborn was at hand. I make no claims as an interpreter of a prophecy, but it does suggest that the true significance of Akatos's gift to mortalkind has yet to be fulfilled or fully understood. When misrule takes its place at the 8 corners of the world, when the brass tower walks and time is reshaped, when the thrice blessed tail and the red tower trembles, when the dragonborn rulers loses his throne and the white tower falls, when the snow tower lies sundered, kingless, bleeding, the world eater works, and the wheel turns upon last dragonborn.